Happy Wednesday, everybody. I hope you're having a good day. This series is coming back. Wednesday Weekly Rants. Now, this week it's only going to be on YouTube, but in the following weeks is, sometimes on YouTube, sometimes Apple Podcasts. I'll let that be known. But Wednesday Weekly Rants is basically a series where I gather topics that I get, that I see on social media, or that I see on, major networks on television, or that people send to me via Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and they want to talk about it because these are topics that are crazy and not necessarily crazy, but you get the picture. These are topics that are relevant right now in sports media, and I ran about them. So in this episode, I got some good ones, but just a disclaimer: me and my guy Cam, we talk about superstars versus non-superstars, and there's some people that we left out that I want to talk about more when the season gets closer. But listen, Wednesday Weekly Rants is back. And there's a lot I need to get off my chest. So outside of that superstars conversation, you're going to hear me talk about this Nets saga as far as Kevin Durant, Kyrie, and Ben Simmons. I'm going to be talking about the Lakers. I'm going to be talking about football a little bit. I don't want to give up too much, but, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Let's get right into it. Wednesday Weekly Rants, man. It's been a while since I've done this, and we getting right into it. First thing I want to talk about, this Lakers situation. When I think about this Lakers situation and where they're at right now, they only have themselves to blame on all fronts, from LeBron to Russ to the whole Lakers organization. So a lot of people tell me, this is their argument, they should have kept their young players. They had the young players in Lonzo and Josh Hart and Brandon Ingram, Kuzma, KCP, all the guys that they didn't give up, they would be competing right now. But my thing is, when you're Lakers, just competing, as we're seeing right now, is not good enough. LeBron went there to win titles. And LeBron's first full healthy season there, they won the title. And everybody says, oh, it's the bubble right now. They wouldn't have won in the bubble. I call BS. Because they have the single most dominant stat I've ever seen in my lifetime. In the fourth quarter, when they're up, there were 55 plus wins and 0. Name me a team that have done that. We talk about the Warriors, how dominant they were with Kevin Durant. They don't have that stat. We talk about his Miami Heat teams. We talk about him with the Cavs. And how that Miami Heat team went, and they won 27 plus games. But up in the fourth quarter, the Lakers were undefeated. Tell me a team that year that was that dominant. And we look at what happened before the bubble, and how he went against these top players in Giannis and Kawhi and Paul George, and he won those games. I'm talking about the king, the greatest players of all time, LeBron James. And they try to give him that knock. They try to give the Lakers that knock. Listen, in the bubble, without the bubble, COVID, no COVID, the Lakers were winning that title that year. If they went against the Clippers in the Western Conference Finals, the same thing would have happened. They would have got beat. The Lakers were winning that championship. And so when people talk to me about they should have kept their young players, it's like you win a championship at all costs. And I look at these young players, and first of all, LeBron going there, and Lakers fans get mad at me when I say this. LeBron going there, he brought them out of misery. That young Lakers team, they're probably what the Pelicans are now? A team barely making it into the playoffs. LeBron going there made that team and that franchise relevant again. You can be relevant with young players in the regular season, but he made them relevant as in title contenders, something they haven't been in almost a decade. LeBron made them relevant again, and I stand on that. He saved that franchise. And bringing in Anthony Davis was the smartest thing they could have done. Yes, Anthony Davis has injury histories, but we all know when he's on that court, there's not 6 players in the league that I'm taking ahead of him. And he showed that his first year there. And all these people now that's switching up are the same people calling him a top 5 player, the same people saying he's taking, the mantle from LeBron James as far as the Lakers, and he's going to be the driving force, and he's this and he's that. These are the same people, But he gets injured, and they switch up, so I find that funny. But so I look at how they are now, and I'll admit, I think trading for Russell Westbrook was a huge mistake. I never liked that. I never liked them trading for Russ. I never thought he would fit, and it showed. Him and LeBron and Anthony Davis, it's a problem when LeBron James is one of the best three-point shooters on your team. And this is no knock at LeBron because he single-handedly worked on his three-pointer all throughout his career to a guy that you're not going to leave wide open anymore. To a guy that's a threat to knocking down 4 or 5 threes a night because he's shooting about 8 of them a game. That's the LeBron James we see now. Not the LeBron that you leave wide open every time he gets the ball if he's free throw line to the 3-point line. Nah, it's a different LeBron. But all in all, it's an issue when he's one of your best 3-point shooters. And I look at how they were made up this year, and, you know, part of it, the roster is trash. Part of it, the coaching was trash. But at the end of the day, it was just never a good fit. It was never a good fit. And I understand Anthony Davis is hurt. You need another guy to help and come liberate that team. But instead of trading all those young guys, those young pieces for a player that we knew that wasn't going to fit, I would have went after a couple guys that were, you know, close to all-stars instead of trying to get a superstar. I feel like you would have got the same out of that, if not more. And the Lakers wouldn't be here today. And so now the Lakers are in this mess. Everybody wants to blame everybody. At the end of the day, everybody has a part of the blame. The players that wanted to play together, they thought they could make it work. The stylistic, they never worked. And the style of these three players were never going to fit together. Again, the best 3-point shooter out of these players are LeBron. LeBron is the best driver of the basketball NBA history. And so you're forcing him to do something. Now, we all know Russ cannot shoot. LeBron adapted his game to be one of the best pick-and-roll screeners in the NBA, but what happens when Anthony Davis gets back? What's he going to do? Just stand in the corner? Too talented for that, and he's the youngest one. And so I look at the Lakers, the situation they're in, and they can only blame themselves. So you got two options. You trade Russ for Kyrie if you're able to do that. You trade Russ to get him off your books and bring us some young guys, but then again, Russ is going to be off your books at the end of the season. So I'm curious to see how the Lakers play out, but as far as what's going on right there, these are my feelings because I know I went on a ramble. I'm upset that people are looking at this Lakers team now and saying, well, they should never traded their young guys because you're not getting a ring. It bothers me that everybody's switching up on Anthony Davis just because 2 years ago everybody was saying he's a top 5 player. Now they switched up on him. It bothers me how, like, nobody wants to hold everybody in a situation accountable. They want to pick and point the blame at one person, from just blaming Russ or just blaming LeBron, just blaming the Lakers. No, everybody needs to be held accountable. Even Frank Vogel, the Lakers. Why would you make the trade? At the end of the day, you should have done what's best for your team. I feel like they rushed the gun with that trade. The players, they need to be held accountable. They did not make it work. They're on that court. You know, we all know that Frank Vogel didn't put together a system, but at the end of the day, Russell Westbrook is the guy on that court, and he didn't show anything. Even though his numbers looked like he had a decent year, his year was a huge drop-off. A huge drop-off. And so when I look at the Lakers organization now, when you have Anthony Davis and LeBron James, your best two players, you're always going to be somewhat of a contender. But looking at the Western Conference, a lot of people don't even think they're a top 6 seed. A lot of people think they're in play-in seed. And so when I say Lakers franchise, who's to blame? Everyone. Speaking of a franchise that could use a little blaming, let's go to the Brooklyn Nets. It's being reported now that Brooklyn, they're just going to keep those two guys together and play it out. They should have done that from the beginning. I never understood, honestly, why this was an issue. Kyrie Irving, the reason why Kyrie Irving should have got paid is because he brought you Kevin Durant. And I feel like the only reason Kevin Durant asked for that trade is because you didn't re-sign his guy. And you weren't being loyal to the guy that got you to where you're at. Now, I'll admit, this is the biggest choke job, biggest disappointment I've seen in my lifetime. Where you have 3 top 15 players when they're all healthy. 3 top 15 players, 2 guys that can easily say they're top 5 when they're at their best. And they only play 16 total games together. That's upsetting that the Brooklyn Nets cannot make this work. And I look at the problems Brooklyn is having, and again with the Lakers, everybody needs to be held accountable. The organization, they keep trading away their future for the flashy things, and they don't understand how to control it or make it work. Because the second time they did this in the past 10 years, these guys were more in their prime than Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce, but you're essentially doing the same thing. Just for you not to get even to the Eastern Conference Finals. But you're trading away your future for the past 10 years. And you're digging yourself in another hole. And so they did that. And you had to get rid of Harden. And you got back some nice things. You got back Ben Simmons, Seth Curry. You got back Drummond. You got back some picks or whatever. That's nice. But I don't think the feeling is there from when they all was together. And so there was issues with Kyrie Irving. And I'm not too privy to all the issues. I just know that There were a lot of things going back and forth, and I look at what's going on now. The Nets, they need to be accountable. This would not happen if you would have your superstars back. If you would have his back and you would make him feel like you're going to be, there for them. Not saying you're going to coddle them, but, you support them. You support your superstars back, they're going to have your back. But I feel like, Brooklyn showed they're not really fully supporting behind Kyrie Irving, and that's their issue. And so I feel like that's the reason why Kevin Durant asked for that trade, even though we all knew that wasn't going to happen. But I'll say this. If Rudy Gobert doesn't get traded and doesn't destroy the market, Kevin Durant's probably not a Brooklyn Net right now. I believe that. I believe Rudy Gobert wasn't traded and didn't destroy the market, the team would have got Kevin Durant by now. But maybe that's a sign for Brooklyn, right? To have all these players play together this year, because some believe that they will, some believe that they won't, and they're still going to look for a trade partner. I say this. When I look at the Brooklyn Nets roster, I mean, man, they can easily be the favorite to win the championship. You got Kyrie Irving. You know what he is. You have Kevin Durant. You have Ben Simmons, right? And what Ben Simmons is going to do is he's going to have the same playmaking ability of James Harden, but he also is bringing the defense that you're losing from Bruce Brown, but his defense times 10. You're getting rebounding, and maybe he's not going to score like Harden, or maybe the battery's in his back. Because we all know if Ben Simmons actually wants to play basketball, there's not 10 guys in the NBA that's better than him at what he does on both ends of the court. And I stand on this. And I stand on he'd be a top 5 point guard in the NBA today if he played basketball at the level he can. Top 3. And I mean that. So if Ben Simmons is able to unlock this potential, the Nets are going to be scary. And then what you do in the offseason, you bring in a Royce O'Neal, which you're kind of, replacing what you're losing from Bruce Brown. And then you bring in a TJ Warren, 18-point per game scorer on a vet minimum deal. You re-sign Claxton. You have Patty Mills back. You get in Joe Harris back off injury. You have a Cam Thomas. So now, you got Day'Ron Sharpe. But if you bring in some more big men depth, this team is scary. And they can easily be the favorite coming out the East, because right now on paper it's them and Milwaukee. And then it's Boston. I'll be honest. I know Boston is returning Eastern Conference champion. But I believe if Chris Middleton isn't hurt, they don't get out the second round. I believe, if things are different, if Ben Simmons plays in that first round, they might not win that, and they just barely got by Miami. And yes, they addressed all their offseason issues, so that may change things. But if if you ask me my favorites on paper, I don't even know who to choose from Brooklyn, Milwaukee. They're my 1A, 1B, and I got Boston too. I mean, that's how good this team can be. But we all know what Brooklyn is a what if, and we need to see it to believe it. And I think, honestly, everybody needs to be held accountable. The players got to do better. They got to, own up to their mistakes, and they got to really ball out this year. I'm looking at ownership, and you need to make up your mind. You're going to support your players. Are you going to want to be a team like the owner, I believe, said, want to win 40 games, but have guys that want to be there, which is dumb. But are you going to, talk to your guy that's making these basketball decisions and, hold him accountable? Like, right now, the media is just pushing this. It's the players' fault. It's the players' fault. It's Kyrie's fault, to be exact. It's Kyrie's fault that Kevin doesn't want to be there. It's Kyrie's fault that Harden was traded. It's Kyrie's fault that all these things are happening. Kyrie has been a scapegoat for this team's issues ever since they signed there, which I believe is unfair. Kyrie Irving is not to blame for this team's, unholy success. It's not all Kyrie Irving's fault. It's everybody's fault. From the coaching. Like, I feel like everything is so big, nobody's talking about how trash the coaching has been. Why is Kevin Durant bringing the ball up? Why is Kevin Durant getting the ball, at 30 feet? Kevin Durant should not be touching the ball. It's either 3-point line or in. Anything farther than that is an issue. Because you got a guy that, yes, he hooped. Yes, even though coming off Achilles, but he's a guy that's been injury prone. Not injury prone, but he's a guy that's been injured and missed a lot of time since that Achilles injury. And yes, we know what he is when he's healthy, but since that Achilles injury, Kevin Durant has missed some time. Kevin Durant has not been fully healthy. And so I don't understand why you're making him work harder than what he has to do. Like with Brooklyn, he played 35 games and 55 games. Tell me why that's okay. You feel me? Like, and then just to make him work harder, that to me doesn't make any sense. But that's why you got a guy like Ben Simmons. And that's why you had a guy like James Harden. See, they mashed it up because they were the playmakers. But when they weren't there, you got all these other guards that Kevin Durant should not be doing the most to score. It should be easy for Kevin Durant, getting in the high post, getting on the block, easy post-ups. The less he has to work is the better for this team, because in the fourth quarter, he's going to be able to dominate and take over. But if you expect him to carry the load, I mean, we saw it in the Milwaukee series. He said that he got burnt out because he had to do everything. And I feel like a part of that is coaching. You could talk about talent on the team, but at the end of the day, a part of that is coaching. And so hopefully the coaching can get better if this team wants to get it better. But right now, if you ask me, the players are good, but from what I learned with Doc Rivers, coaching means a lot. And speaking of Doc Rivers, let's just talk about this in my Philadelphia 76ers. You know, as it stands right now, James Harden hasn't signed his deal. I'm not worried about that because he said, and it's been reported that, you know, he wants Daryl to fix the roster and then he'll take what's left. And I think right now the Sixers are still trying to get that one good six-man or some good wing shooting. I don't think they're going after a power forward or center. But when I look at my Sixers, it's championship or bust. And it's been like that for me since 2019 when they brought together that roster. 2020, even though Ben Simmons got hurt, so we can say that was a down year. But then I look at the year after that, right? I look at 2 years ago and how we were this dominant team and where we ended up after being so dominant. Number 1 seed and home court advantage, one of the best home teams, and we folded. And a lot of people, again, wants to blame Ben Simmons, but I look at Doc Rivers and having a huge lead again, and he's known for blowing leads. Phil Jackson even said it when they played him in the finals. He blew a 3-1 lead with Orlando. He blew multiple leads with Boston. He blew multiple leads with the Clippers, and he blew a huge lead in the Eastern Conference semifinals against Atlanta Hawks with my 76ers. And again, people want to blame Ben Simmons and his lack of performance, but when you have multiple games where you're up 20 and you lose those games, and you've been known for doing this with your entire career with Hall of Famers or every single team you've done it with, I think Doc has to be looked at as a guy that needs to be taking some of this blame. And so I look at Doc Rivers going into this year, and if we do not make it into the championship game, I don't care if we lose to Brooklyn or Milwaukee in the second round or Boston in the second round, they're going to win a championship because you're good enough to compete with those teams. Like the Philadelphia 76ers, I feel like they play down to their talent. And you could say part of it is Joel Embiid being hurt in the playoffs, but I look at again that 2021 year, the year that the Milwaukee Bucks won the championship. And Joel Embiid against the Hawks put up numbers with a messed up knee. Win those games, give him time to rest. Going against Milwaukee, I've never been afraid of Milwaukee. Their biggest thing was height and Giannis, and we got Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid to combat that. I've never been afraid of Milwaukee. And so again, going into this year, first of all, I've been a firm believer. After the first year, I've said it on multiple platforms, on my own platform, on my social medias, on other platforms I've guest host and guest starred on, that I feel like Doc Rivers should have been fired. And it wasn't going to happen, but I want him gone right then and there. I believe Sam Cassell is now ready to be a head coach. And if Doc Rivers and this Sixers team, unless it's blatantly not Doc Rivers' fault, but if he's not doing the right coaching things in the playoffs and we don't make it to the championship this year, Doc has to go. Because how long is Joel Embiid going to have this window of dominance? And I think this year with Harden, and we're hoping Harden can take that next level, and you have a Tyrese Maxey. We got a little younger. We bring in a DeAnthony Milton. You got a Daniel House. You got a PJ Tucker. You know, guys, this team is going all in. This team is going all in, and it's win or bust for this team. And it's win or bust for a lot of teams, I say, in the Eastern Conference. It is for Milwaukee. It is for Boston. It is for the Miami Heat. It is for the Philadelphia 76ers. It is for the Brooklyn Nets. Those teams in the Eastern Conference, those 5 teams, those are going to – and I'm not even talking about Chicago, who you can say – to me, those are probably the 6 top teams in the East, no order. Boston, Brooklyn, Philadelphia, Milwaukee, Miami, Chicago, and Atlanta is in that mix too. But I think Atlanta is more of a deep playoff run. But Miami, Chicago, Milwaukee, Philly, Brooklyn, Boston, championship or bust. And my 76ers is the only team outside of Brooklyn. But we've been together longer than Brooklyn. So Boston has been together for a minute. They've been there. They took themselves to the finals. Miami Heat, they took themselves to the finals. You know, Milwaukee, they took themselves to the finals and won it. It is Philadelphia's turn now to do so because they've been together longer, or as long as some of these teams, and they have yet to establish themselves in the playoffs in the Eastern Conference, and that's becoming an issue. In the regular season, they established themselves, but in the playoffs, it's a whole different story. Now I want to move on. I want to talk about the NFL real quick. Yeah. Lamar Jackson needs to get paid. I keep seeing this. Lamar's not a top 10 quarterback. Lamar's not this. Lamar's not that. And this is what I have to say about this. Again, everybody needs to be held accountable. Yes, Lamar has to make better throws, but can you sit up here and tell me the Baltimore Ravens have done everything to make him the better player and to maximize on his weaknesses and his strengths? To try to take away his weaknesses and build upon his strengths? Have they really did that? You know, they're bringing running backs in there, this great running attack, and we all know you have to pass in today's NFL. And, the notion is Lamar can't make this throw. He can't make that throw. Yes, his arm has question marks. But what have the Baltimore Ravens done to help him out with that? Have they brought in wide receivers? Have they drafted wide receivers? Have they re-signed wide receivers? Have they made sure the offensive line is as good as it needs to be? Has the offensive coordinator actually changed the game plan, or did you just have a whole bunch of speedy wide receivers running the same routes? Because that's what I saw for a number of years. And you had Mark Andrews as your safety blanket. And so I look at what they are now, and not to be a homer, but I compare it to my Philadelphia Eagles. And why do I compare it to my Philadelphia Eagles? Because you got a quarterback in Jalen Hurts who is known to be a very great runner of the football for a quarterback. Is known to having questionable things about his arm as far as can he make the deep throw? Does he have accuracy? And what do I see my Philadelphia Eagles doing to help him out? Drafting wide receivers, bringing in an A.J. Brown, a top 15, because there's so many talented receivers. If somebody's a top 15 receiver, I don't think that's a knock on them. I don't. Because you're still number one, and A.J. Brown's a number one, 1,000-yard receiver. You know, and people say top 15. Oh, he's top 15. He's not this. He's not that. It's not the NBA where you only got one point guard on the court. No, you have 3 wide receivers on the field at one time. So saying someone's top 15 is not a knock. In my opinion, A.J. Brown is minimum a top 15 wide receiver. But what we have done in the draft to address that as well, you bring in a Devontae Smith. No, he didn't have the year as a Jamar Chase. But I think he's going to have 1,000-yard year this year. I think you're going to see 2 Eagles with 1,000 yards this year. We haven't had a 1,000-yard receiver in a long time. Consistently. We're going to get that now with a Pro Bowl type wide receiver and a young receiver on up and coming. Then you have Quez Watkins, who I said before last year was going to have a huge year. And what did he do? Because I saw flashes. He was a big-time playmaker type receiver, a deep threat. Our speedy guy. And then you still got an Aguilar. Then you still got all these other receivers. So when I look at what the Eagles did, they brought receivers out to help Jalen Hurts. So now he has more targets. And you still also have Dallas Goedert, a top 10 tight end in the game. So I saw the Philadelphia Eagles aggressively and actively trying to put more wide receivers next to Jalen Hurts so that he's not being forced to make those like an Aaron Rodgers or a Tom Brady when they didn't have the most talented receivers because they had the arm talent. So these guys are young. They might not have the arm talent as developing. So what do? You bring in more weapons so it's somewhat easier on them. You got guys that can make plays. They don't have to have plays made for them. Yet I'm looking at Baltimore and I don't see them doing that. You bring in a Sammy Watkins, a guy that's just been banged up for years, but you drafted Rashad Bateman, if I'm not mistaken. But what else have you done? And I see people saying, oh, well, wide receivers don't want to play, with Lamar Jackson. I've actually seen that a lot. Trade for him. They don't want to sign her, you trade for him. But why? It's because his offense has been running the ball. It's not always Lamar Jackson's fault. He led the league in passing touchdowns, his MVP year, if I'm not mistaken. But if you look at the wide receivers that they have, tell me what you expect a guy that has questionable arm talent to do. But yeah, he's going to get the blame. He can't make the throws. Mark Andrews, Rashad Bateman. I'm looking at these wide receivers, and no offense because you're in the NFL, but I haven't heard a single name that I know. When you tell me about Rashad Bateman and Mark Andrews, I know who they are. I know their skill sets. I know what they can bring. All these other receivers I've never heard of. And again, no shade because you're in the NFL. And I'm not calling you a bum. I'm not calling you trash. I'm just saying I never heard of you. Devin Duvernay. James I don't want to butcher your last name the second. James P. the second. Benjamin Victor, Jalen Moore, Taylor Wallace. Trevor Clark, Shamar Bridges, Slade Bolden. I've never heard of these guys. But you're expecting a guy who has questionable arm talent to make these throws. Why don't you bring him weapons? Again, not trying to be a homer, but look at what the Eagles have done. Out of all the questions we heard about Jalen Hurts' arm from his time to Alabama to Oklahoma to his first year taking over for Carson Wentz to his last year being a full-time starter. And what did the Eagles do? They continue to bring weapons around him because it's obvious. If he has questionable arm talent, bring the weapons to him. And the last thing I'm going to talk about before we go to this ad is people need to make sure they have the right circle of guys around them. All these allegations and all these charges that's happening to these, players from the Miles Bridges to the Deshaun Watsons to the Devontae Grahams. Just make sure you got the best circle around you, a guy that's always going to have your back and not let you go out and do nothing sad that's going to jeopardize your life. Even the Henry Ruggs. Young, talented guys that could have been making millions, but now their life and their career is in jeopardy and it could be over. So I'm going to speak on that. And we're back. And for this segment, we're going to talk superstars. And there's nobody I'd rather talk this segment with than my guy Cam. Not a lot of people have the knowledge. Not a lot of people like to tell the truth about these quote-unquote superstar players. And if there's one person I know that's going to do that, that's my guy Cam. What's up, Cam? How you doing, bro?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. And yeah, everybody think, everybody a superstar and that you can, throw that, term around loosely. And I disagree. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to talk, some NBA superstar talk with you.
And I'll be honest, for not this season, I was throwing that word around a little bit more, and I fell victim to it because we see a lot of guys posting these crazy stat lines and, and we're just giving them the name. Oh, he's doing that. He's scoring this. He's an all-star. Oh, now he's a superstar. When I look at superstars, I look at players that can carry their team to a championship or a deep playoff run, somebody that's box office, and somebody that doesn't need five, quote unquote max guys to do it. They can do it by themselves. They can carry a team. How would you describe a superstar? How would you define a superstar?
Yeah, you pretty much hit it there. Box office is obviously huge. Got to be able to sell out arenas. Obviously being able to uplift a team. And I'm not saying it has to be, obviously eventually you have to win a championship, but even if you're young, you have to show that you have the ability to maybe uplift, maybe not the best cast in the world. I would like to see that out of a superstar. I would like to see, my superstar be clutch, come up big in big moments. So it's several things there, that I would like to see, as a superstar goes. But yeah, it's not many of them, that's for sure.
All right, so I got a list of names, and we're going to determine if they're a superstar, a star, or all-star. I'm not going to throw nobody that's not an all-star caliber in this because there's just no point. But first name I got, Kyrie Irving, superstar, star, all-star.
Star.
Star. Okay.
Yeah, he's a star for me. He can't be a superstar. We don't know if he's gonna play with his status. Kyrie is now, I think, to the point where, we seen him not be able to. I mean, he did it 1 year in Boston, but after that, it seemed like the team kind of faltered around him. So now, yeah, definitely a star for sure, but not superstar.
Yeah, I'm with you. And for a while, he was, his early years in Cleveland, he was kind of on that borderline, get into that, superstar category. Even though they lost their finals before he left, you look at his numbers, and it wasn't because of Kyrie. Kyrie showed he could do on the big stage, but when he got to Boston, his performance in the playoffs just, kind of showed me that I don't know, if he's in that superstar category. So I'm agree with you. I'm going with star. Donovan Mitchell. We talked about him a little bit earlier in our messages. Superstar, star, all-star.
All-star, man. Donovan Mitchell is an all-star. high value shot taker. You know, not as efficient as you would probably like him to be at times. Is he box office? I mean, I don't have to just turn on and watch Donovan Mitchell play. So for me, like I said, he's a good player. I hate to call it, like all-star the bad thing in this thing, but
I know, which is crazy. I mean, you all-star, that still means you're one of the best at your position. So I hope people understand that. But
when we talk about the cream of the crop,
we did.
For me, he's an all-star.
Yeah, and I'm not mad at you. I mean, this is a guy that's is a 20+ point per game scorer since he came into the league last year, averaging 25, basically 26 points. But the reason why I'm, definitely not a superstar, but the reason why I'm on the fence is, yeah, and we talked about it. We both don't like guys that high volume shooters with low field goal percentages, and that's really Donovan Mitchell. This year in the playoffs, shot 22 shots a game, only scoring about 25 points, and he's real inconsistent sometimes in the playoffs. Like we saw what he did in the bubble. We saw what he did the year before. The year before, I thought he was getting towards that borderline superstar star category. So right now I'm torn. I'll be honest. I might give him star. I think I'm gonna give him star only because I do think he is one of the best at his position and he's a scorer. Now he does like to chuck up threes, being very undersized for his position. But I do think he's one of the best at his position. I think he's a little bit better than an all-star. Next, we're going to go Bradley Beal, superstar, star, all-star. And this is crazy because you look at his contract.
He's making all the chips. Man, this is tough for me. I'm torn between all-star and star.
Wow.
But I'm going with all-star, man. Woo. I know this is tough. I'm being rough.
But that's why there's nobody. It's only a couple of people I would want to do this segment with, and you're one of them because you're going to be honest. You're not going to, sugarcoat anything. He can score. No. If you think he's an all-star,
yep, he's an all-star. Look, Bradley Beal can score with the best of them. He can give you 30 a night, no doubt about it. But at some point, you have to be able to make your team better. And I just don't ever see that with the Wizards. He's going to get his, and they're going to win about 33, 34 games a year. And it's just a continuous cycle. So, yeah, for me, it was tough because I like Bradley Beal a lot. But for me, he'd be all-star.
And I'm with you, but the thing is, I do think he's one of the best of his position. But, like, the year they went to the playoffs and lost against my Sixers, Russell Westbrook had a big hand in that.
Yeah.
This year only played 40 games. And, I mean, the team is going to be what it's going to be. I mean, I'm borderline there. I want to say star. Again, this is tough.
This was hard for me. Like, I wanted to say star.
Like, I want to say star. I'm going star, man. Listen, I do think when I know he's not, going to be the guy that's going to lead his team into a deep playoff run. I think this year really shows a lot because if he plays, one thing about him is health. When he's healthy, he's one of the best scorers in the game. But if he plays majority of the season, this team's not being able to go to the playoffs. He's sliding back down to that all-star category, which is crazy when you make $250 million.
Yeah, he got $250 million. He had Porzingis. He had cool, so he has some pieces. So, now it's just time to at least get him to, to the playoffs for sure.
And I don't want to hear, when people listen to this, he doesn't have the best team because, I mean, this team and the Cavs team was somewhat, the same. And I look at what Darius Garland did. And he's not even in this category because Garland is just, basically an all-star. No offense to him. But look what Garland did leading his team compared to what Bill did. So for the people that want to hate because he's scoring 30 points and why he's not a superstar, is his team that much better with or without him?
Exactly. And just a hot take before you move on to the next person. I would say Darius Garland is trending more towards star than Bradley Beal is.
I'm not mad at you. And we just going to go all the way with it. Darius Garland was the guy when drafted I said is going to have a huge impact for this Cavs team. And when I looked at him and Colin Sexton, I'm thinking they're going to be a nice backcourt duo. Sexton can worry about, more scoring. Garland's going to be more efficient with his scoring and give you a lot of assists. And I look what he did this year. I mean, he's only on the upside. And if he didn't get hurt, he probably would have been a higher pick. So honestly, Garland is the guy. And I'm not. And if they make the playoffs and the Wizards don't, Garland's getting a nod over Bradley Beal as far as all-star category.
I agree.
Next player, let's ramp it up a little bit. Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard. This is a tricky one. I heard a lot of people talking on social media. This is a tricky one. Kawhi Leonard, all-star, superstar.
Kawhi,
star. Where you gonna put him?
Kawhi Leonard is a superstar.
Thank you.
Kawhi Leonard is a superstar. I'm gonna make it quick. What he did with the Raptors, kind of solidified superstar status for me. Uplifting that team, basically swapped him into Rose, and now you got a championship out of it. So, box office player Kawhi.
I'm saying I think it's superstar. I don't know why people are trying to argue anything else. 2-time Finals MVP. He literally led a team in 1 year to the championship. And this dude, we look at him as one of the best. When healthy not only at his position but in the league. So Kawhi is superstar for me. Next, we're gonna go Anthony Davis.
He is a star.
Okay.
Trending towards all-star if he don't get right. Just because he, I don't know if he got the championship and just got complacent.
Mm-hmm.
But last year it was not good. Shooting percentage wise, he didn't have an explosiveness. So I need AD to get back right. I'm gonna give him star, but you better pick it up quick because he can fall into all-star category real fast.
Yeah, I'm gonna give KD. I'm gonna give AD star as well. With his years in New Orleans and his first year in the Lakers, he was honestly going towards the superstar category. Because with New Orleans, he was balling, and I still stand on this. DeMarcus Cousins doesn't get hurt, that team probably goes to the high take. They're going to the finals because I don't see nobody stopping them two, plus Drew Holiday and Rondo, and just shooting the defense from all the other wing positions. That team would have been a tough out. I do think they would have made it to the finals. Possibly could have won the final. I don't know about one, but I do think they would have made it to the finals. But, he's been posting ridiculous numbers. But ever since they won that championship, his already fragile, frail body's just been getting worse. And this year really is, this year is going to say a lot about Anthony Davis and the Lakers' future. If he's not healthy, if he's not, putting up these MVP type numbers, then he's going to stay in that, he's not a guy that can do it by himself category. And he's just going to be looked at as, a guy that's been, passed up because everybody that was in his age range just ran by him.
Yep, exactly.
Right. Next player, Zion Williamson. Superstar, star, all-star. I think this one's tricky, but I'm going to let you answer.
For me, right now, that is tricky. Because when I say so, I'm catching myself. But Zion Williamson, is all-star. I can't give him star level yet because I understand they had CJ McCollum. So I'm interested to see how that fits. But Zion didn't improve the team. He didn't like the win total took a ginormous jump. So I'm gonna say all-star.
And this is going to be one of the ones I think we highly disagree with. He's star really close. I almost said superstar for Zion. I almost, but I'm going with star, no hesitation. I said almost. His injury and him not playing is a concern, but there's not a lot of guys that's played like the little bit of games he played. There's not a lot of guys that's been that dominant. 27 points and it's all, at the rim, barely with the mid ranges. And I honestly think this dude listens to the people like Charles Barkley, like Shaq. He's gonna be that much better. Charles said he was dominating at 300 pounds, but when he got to 250, the game was too easy. I'm not saying Zion has to be super slim, but if he just gets in the best shape, there's not going to be a lot of people that's going to be stopping this dude getting his way. And when I look at his first year, even though, he got hurt again, he really helped that team get real close to that playing tournament. Him coming back, him playing, and now this roster's only gotten better. I think if he's healthy this year, he's going to be All NBA. This team is definitely going to be a playoff team, and it's going to be scary. You know, this man Zion is different. He's box office. He's box office. He was averaging 27 or 60% shooting All-Star, real close to being All NBA if he played more. He's really. Once I see him in the playoffs, he's really going to determine where he's at. But for me, it's definitely star, no hesitation for me.
All right, hey, we're gonna have to discuss that some more. I see star. I don't see superstar at all.
Like I said, I need to see him in the playoffs before I give somebody that superstar, tag. But if he's able to do what he's doing in the regular season in the playoffs and they win and they go past the first round, I mean, there's not a lot of people that's getting talked about this much that doesn't even play. And the dominance I saw from him in a little bit of games he played, I haven't seen dominance like that in a while.
Okay.
Sticking with that draft class, Ja Morant, superstar, star, all-star.
Ja is a superstar.
Thank you. Okay.
Ja is a superstar.
Thank you.
He box office. He exciting. You always think that you go in the game, you're gonna see something spectacular, whether it's a pass, dunk.
Mm-hmm.
And he uplifted the Grizzlies. Let's face it. That team he got there, they instantly became competitive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what you're supposed to do when you get picked number 2. That's what you expect out of a franchise point guard. He instantly made them better. One of the best teams in the West. Everything that we named that we want out of a superstar, he's been it. So yeah, I'm going Ja Morant as a superstar.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Just to touch on the points you made, where he got drafted. The first 2 years close to the plan. This year, getting the second round, and some may say, and I'm that some, if he doesn't get hurt, that Warriors series is going 7, and it's going to be anybody's game. So I think he's a superstar. Box office made his team better. One of the best of his positions. Next, we're gonna go your boy Luka.
That's superstar.
All right.
I'm not trying to be biased, but to me, Luka's a superstar. I think he's one of the players that does more with less.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have a top 50 player on his roster.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think currently in the NBA. And he made it to the Western Conference Finals. He could do it all. Obviously stop seeing him complaining about calls, but outside of that, he's a superstar for me.
Yeah, I don't even think this one's up for debate. Superstar, and this, I think people was on a somewhat borderline because he didn't get out the first round, but he wanted to get to a team that had 2 top 10 players, arguably top 15 players, and took them 7 games, and easily could have won both series with just a little bit more help. And then this year he takes the team to the Western Conference Finals, smashing a lot of people on his way. Luka's the superstar. It's not even close. Devin Booker.
Star.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Star, good player, very good player. Was on the cusp to superstardom.
But your boy took it from him. Your boy took it from him. That was the series that was going to determine if Luke. Your boy took it from him, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. He did kind of take it from him. Especially and the fact that he went on this 4-game 7.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and
dominated did that to him.
And the fact, Devin Booker needs a little bit more dog in him, but he's a very good player. He's a star for me.
Yeah, he's definitely a star for me as well. And listen, I was the one early. If you remember, I called Chris Paul going to the Suns, but that ship has sailed. Their window is now over, in my opinion. So now we're going to, with just this team constructed as it is right now, I definitely think their window is over, and I stand on that. And now we're going to see Devin Booker really carry a team. I think a lot of people was getting ahead of themselves because, yes, he's a very good, talented scorer, and they were one of the best teams. but he never really, did anything truly special to me in the playoffs consistently that made me want to take him and put him on that next level. So for me, Devin Booker's a star. He could get to that, superstar category, but right now he's a star. Next, we go on my boy, Joel Embiid, my man, my franchise player.
Oh, Chris.
Oh, you're not going to borderline Joel.
I'm going borderline Joel. I'm going borderline Joel Embiid. Between star and superstar. Joel Embiid is a star, man. I know, and I know you think he's a superstar. And I'm not gonna be like, oh, fall off the, fall off the bridge, because you say he's a superstar. For me, man, it's always something, with it, and the consistency in the playoffs.
And I can't be mad. I knew that was coming, and I can't
That
be
I
mad
don't
at it.
see. Like, I need, you got to get to the conference finals
Mm-hmm.
one time for me, especially as dominant as he is. In one game, he'll give you 40, and then the next game, it's maybe 18 on 5 or 19 shooting. You just can't have that, especially when when the team needs you the most in playoff situations. So that's why I'm giving him a star. But it's hard because I like Joel Embiid. He's a very, 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 very good player, but star for me.
I think I'm giving him superstar, without a doubt. And I'm not mad at you for saying the concerns in the playoffs, and there's no excuses around that. But the next player I'm going to name, I'm going to, kind of push my debate a little bit more for Joel after we talk about this next player, Nikola Jokic, superstar, star, all-star.
I knew you was gonna do this. This is tough too.
Oh, this one is tough.
Because the reason why is because he's not box office or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a superstar.
Mm-hmm.
2-time MVP, back to back. It just don't happen in this league very often.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the fact that if he's not putting the ball in the cup, he's a great passer. Still can be a focal point of the offense from the post or the perimeter, with his vision. Obviously, I think Joel Embiid's defense is a little bit better than Jokic, but it's not terrible. Jokic's defense is not terrible. I think he's a well-rounded player. And back-to-back MVP, it's hard not to be a superstar.
For me, he's a superstar, and what you said, a lot of people, won't really listen to. He's not box office. Like when you look at Jokic, like you don't hear a lot of people saying, talking about him as far as, you don't see the Nuggets getting these high, TV deals. People would rather see, Zion before they see Jokic, and that's because Jokic's game, if you're not a true basketball fan, it's just boring. But when I look at Jokic, and the reason why, he's been to the Western Conference Finals, that, one time when you got, somebody on your team putting up 26 in the playoffs, then somebody putting up 18. I wish Joel Embiid had that. Oh my goodness. What Murray did oh man, I wish Joel Embiid had somebody he could count on in the playoffs. Especially the year that, the Bucks won the championship, because I don't see nobody stopping that team, but that's in the past. Jokic is a superstar to me. But let me ask you this question, and this segment gonna go on longer, and I'm not upset it's going on longer, because one thing about us, we're gonna have the right conversation. When you look at Jokic and his 2-time MVPs, does this remind you of Steve Nash? Were people saying Steve Nash won those MVPs, but was he ever really the best, and should he won both of them? Because I'm not even going to talk about LeBron, in this. I'm not even going to talk about LeBron. We all know LeBron's the best in the league, but he never had these MVP type seasons. But when I look at guys like Giannis, I look at guys like Embiid, guys that were arguably the MVP, and a lot of people consider, those players better than Jokic. Do you, correlate the two, or you think it's different?
In this case, it's different, I think, because only reason why I think it's a slight bit of difference is because, like, those years with Steve Nash, like, if you took Steve Nash off the Suns, they would still be good.
Okay. And I agree with you.
That with the system D'Antoni is, every point guard in D'Antoni's system plays better than
Mhm.
everywhere else. So if they wouldn't be as good, but they'll be super good still. I just feel like you take Jokic off of these Denver Nuggets teams, especially with the injuries they've had over the last couple years. I mean, you're looking at a team that will arguably pick a number one in the draft.
And that's why he's a superstar for me. Honestly, that's why without a doubt he's the superstar for me because what he does for this team. You know, even though I don't think he's better than Embiid, I don't care if he won 2 MVPs over my boy. I'm going to stand on that. And I'm never going to get off that mantle. But I do think without a doubt he's a superstar and the top 5 player in the NBA.
Yep, I agree with that.
All right, who I got next on this list? I'm gonna cut some of these players short. Let's go Giannis. I think this one is not even questionable.
Superstar. We ain't gotta explain.
All right, I'm glad we there. And if this was 2 years ago, I probably would have said 2-3 years ago I'd have said star. But you know, we don't gotta explain Giannis. Giannis is that guy. James Harden.
Ooh,
James Harden.
Now this ain't 2 years ago. 3 years ago.
And see, it's crazy because his scale really dropped so much within the past 3 years. I'm talking about from his last year with Houston, even when he was with Brooklyn, and to what we saw last year with Philly. Now, I can, talk about what I'm going to expect from him next year because I know the type of numbers he's going to have next year if he really puts in the work this offseason. But a lot of people don't believe in him anymore. And honestly, knowing you, I think I know where you're going to go, or I know how you think it, so I'm just waiting to hear
it. He a star.
Okay.
Star. I ain't dropping him to all-star level yet.
I know that yet was there.
But he played like an all-star last year.
Indeed.
So I need him to take, obviously Harden is always going to be somewhat like chunky, but he has to, really commit himself to being in shape and being ready to go. And that's when you're going to think you'll get superstar James Harden.
Yeah, if he's in shape this year, he's a superstar. I don't think it's any question, but I definitely saw. I'm gonna be honest. I saw all-star levels of James Harden sometimes last year. So, and it was bad. And when he first got to Brooklyn, he was playing like a superstar. Before that hamstring injury. But right now, he's in that star category. And that's my guy. Next player, I'm gonna shorten this list up a little bit. Jason Tatum.
Star.
Okay.
He's not a superstar yet. He has a chance to be. He's very young. That's a finals experience under his belt. But yeah, superstar was there, I think, for the taking once again. One of those situations. And just not quite yet. So, star for Jason Tatum for me.
And I was throwing, and talking about the finals, I was really throwing that superstar word, out there a lot when it comes to Jason Tatum. And the next player we're going to talk about. I was throwing that word out there a lot. And he's at the star for me. He's definitely at the star for me. And it's crazy because, you saw a guy really carry his team to the finals. But first team All-NBA. But in my opinion, I'm with you. He's a star. Next, Jaylen Brown, his teammate.
Oh, that's tough. I think that's tough. I think they both are stars.
Okay.
I got Jaylen Brown as a star. I really like Jaylen Brown because quiet as a cat, a lot of people I talk to a lot of people, and I like Jaylen Brown better. I've always said that. I like Jaylen Brown's mental makeup just a little bit better. But I think he's a star. I think they're both stars. I think that's what makes it work. But I don't think neither one of them are superstars yet. But I think it was close. It was more towards all-star star for Jaylen Brown because we really haven't got him see the opportunity as a number one guy.
Yeah. And I got to agree. Again, I was throwing that word around so loosely. That's why I did come back and, we talk about this. But for me, he's a star. I think if he had his own team, could get close to that superstar category. But right now, he's borderline. He just got above that all-star hump. And for me, I think he showed that he's a star in today's NBA, two-way player, and get it done. CP3.
CP3. CP3 is still a star in this league.
Okay.
I'm not going. I can't disrespect him all the way now.
Right.
He make teams better still. Still can impact the game. It just goes to show a little bit. In the playoffs, I think he gets a little worn down. Especially if you get the guard 94 feet and get physical with him. But he's still a star. He's not a superstar, but he's better than all stars. Well, it's just his impact on the game.
For me, I was borderline all-star star. I was so close. I'm really close to calling this man an all-star, only because how he performed against your team. That he was looking like barely an all-star. In the series before, Devin Booker gets hurt, so he has to do more. He shows that he can still score 20 plus in his league, but his inconsistencies and he's only getting older. He's definitely not a superstar. He definitely makes every team better. But like I said earlier, and I'm going to stand on this, their championship window, it's going to take a lot for them to actually do anything or impress me. I think they're first round exit next year. And he's a star. I don't even want to talk about LeBron. We already know, like, what's understood doesn't need to be explained about LeBron. Jimmy Butler.
Star. Just not, I get it. You turn up in the playoffs. Definitely. He's a better performer in the playoffs, which is what you want to see out of a player. I respect that. Still not box office. When I look at Jimmy Butler regular season, when we talking about superstar status, you got to nitpick. Regular season does matter. You just can't kind of lull through a regular season and then all of a sudden turn up, which is good. But when we talk about superstar status, so for that I gotta give him a star.
So going into the year, he's in the star category. How he did, the 2020, 2021 season in the playoffs was one of the worst performances I've ever seen. But what he did this year in the playoffs, again, proved to me why he has to be in my superstar category. And I'm not mad at you for how you're kind of, basing how you're ranking him. But from a guy that literally becomes one of the top 5 players, in my opinion, in the NBA in the playoffs consistently, especially what he did this year, how he carried this Miami Heat team, I think he has to go in a superstar category for me. Because in the playoffs, there's a lot of people we put, in that superstar category that I would take Jimmy Butler ahead of. A lot of people, quote unquote, put people in the superstar category. And I'm picking Jimmy Butler with we talking about in the playoffs. Regular season, you're right, it matters. But you talking about a guy that doesn't shrink in the playoffs like other people. He only gets better.
That's true. I give you that.
LaMelo, I'm just curious to hear. It only had to be long. I'm just curious to feel, hear how you feel about LaMelo.
All-star.
Okay. We're in agreement.
Gotta give me a little more.
Got to get to the playoffs. Barely getting, never making it to the playoffs. And
not the play-in.
Yeah, the playoffs. And make it to the playoffs, he's in my star category. But you hear his name, I say this, he's box office. He's definitely box office. I will pay to go see LaMelo, but you got to win something for me. And the last player we're going to talk about is Kevin Durant.
Superstar. Still a superstar to me.
Okay.
I know it's shaky, and I'm upset at Kevin Durant because, like I said, they need to figure that out in Brooklyn. They don't need to be going nowhere. But yeah, he's still a superstar. Things Kevin Durant does, still amazing on the basketball court. And if Kevin Durant got traded to any halfway decent team, they would probably be top 3, top 2 as far as contenders for a championship. That's how you know you're a superstar. So yeah, he's a superstar for me still.
He's a superstar, but I know we're gonna talk about a lot on your podcast, and I'm gonna talk about it more later in this episode when people hear this. But man, Kevin Durant, like, he's a runner, he's a track star. I heard somebody say that, and I don't.
Shannon Sharp.
Listen, man, I get so disappointed when I look at him outside of what he's been Like you take Golden State away, and he's been a star. He's been a star in the playoffs. He has, he hasn't really carried his team, and I get, you give him the benefit of the doubt. But man, again, leaving another situation, I don't know. It's just his whole resume, his whole, the way you look at Kevin Durant. If he actually, goes through with this trade and leaves this team, and he doesn't win a championship the first year, no matter what team he goes to, if they're a contender, I see Kevin Durant slide down a lot of people's all-time lists, and I want to give him a star. And if I send him, he's a superstar, but it's just sad. Like it's just sad. He's better than Anthony Davis, even though I kind of look at him and AD somewhat the same now. He's better than Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum wiped the floor with him in the playoffs. Kevin Durant's a superstar, but his the way people look at him right now, it's not the same how it was last year, the year before. It's only getting worse for Kevin Durant.
Yeah. I totally agree with you there. 110%.
But I appreciate you for coming on this segment. Superstar, all-star, star. A lot of people had to be informed. There's some names we didn't name, but I felt like, I think those that are somewhat consistent guys that can borderline, like a Chris Middleton, like a Bam, for me, they're in that all-star category. I'm not putting them above. They're, borderline all-star guys. But I think these are some of the best, the cream of the crop, that a lot of people will get scared if they're superstars, stars, all-star. But Cam, again, appreciate you. Let them know where they can find you. Let them know what we got coming up.
Yeah, of course, you can always find me on Twitter, Coach Cam C, Instagram, Coach Cam Chance, Time Out with Coach Cam on Facebook, Life in the Jungle on Facebook, Twitter as well. You can catch us tomorrow on Time Out with Coach Cam on Facebook Live, YouTube Live. So check us out.
Appreciate you. Peace out, my guy.